Rishi Sunak is accused of lying over the cost of justice as victims are made to pay thousands of pounds to access vital court records. We're going to read into this more from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline of Rishi Sunak is accused of lying over the cost of justice as victims are made to pay thousands to access vital court records. Victims speak to Byline Times as some are forced to cough up thousands of pounds to access their abusers' trial transcripts. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Now, I may have covered a similar story on Patreon or maybe even on one of my premiere videos with regards to this, but we're going to look at this story in a lot more detail as well, because I've not done a video specifically on this. So what is this about? So basically, it's about people who are victims in cases against victims who are forced to pay out basically for transcripts for calls. Now, why should any victim be forced to pay to access vital court records? Doesn't make any sense. Why? Why is this happening? They are the victims in this. So why should they have to pay out for them? I don't get it. Maybe one of you could explain it to me. But to me, this feels like a scam to me. A scam. These people have gone, some of these people have gone through some terrible ordeals, atrocities, or whatever. We're going to read into the stories. But no one should have to pay to access transcripts or vital court records like these as a victim. Doesn't sit right with me. Now, someone may come in the comments and say, no, this is perfectly normal. Is it? Is it right? Is it right that someone who is a victim, that they should have to pay out? Now, if it finds that they, if it is found that perhaps that they weren't a victim and the person was deemed innocent, maybe there is a case then, perhaps for them to be paying for that. But innocent until proven guilty, these victims and whatnot, doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't. Let's read into this one to get a better understanding about this. So, the son of a domestic abuse victim who killed her abusive husband in 2010, the conviction was later overturned, has accused the PM of lying after claiming families of homicide victims can get free transcripts of court proceedings. In England and Wales, victims of crimes and their families are currently asked to pay hundreds or even thousands of pounds to private companies for transcripts of court hearings that relate to them. The Open Justice for All campaign said this impossible cost of closure is not one that many victims can afford to pay, especially how dramatic stress can impact a victim's ability to go to work or focus. So we're talking about those. We're talking about homicide victims here. Oh, you need to read the transcript. Yeah, that'll be £1,000, please. What? Like, excuse me? Like, I'm the victim here. Why do I have to pay for this? That's straight away off the bat. Now, it's entirely possible that maybe some people might say that maybe depending on what kind of case it is, maybe it's not needed for other kind of cases potentially. But this here, thousands of pounds to private companies. Who put private companies in charge of this? Traumatic experience. David Challen, now a campaigner on domestic violence, has been refused free access to court transcripts for his mother's successful appeal against her 2011 conviction for murdering her husband. David Challen has been quoted fees of £1,200 to read his 2019 appeal hearing that cleared his mother of killing her husband. She was freed on the grounds of diminished responsibility due to the abuse she faced. But responding to a question from Lib Dem MP Sarah Olney at PMQs on Wednesday, PM Rishi Sunak told MPs on Wednesday, "We already offer a free service to families of homicide victims to access our transcripts." Yeah, we watched. If you guys want to check it out, I did actually cover Prime Minister's questions. I remember this asking, and I was just like, but he didn't answer the question, and he didn't answer that question. David told Byline Times, "The Prime Minister lied in PMQs when questioned about court transcripts. Here I am, the family of a homicide victim, being denied a free service that should be available at no cost, not only to myself, but all victims of crime." The London-based campaigner said the lack of access to vital court documents which held back his recovery journey in processing what he and his family went through. On December 11th, 2023, Challen requested a transcript of the 2019 appeal, part of his therapeutic recovery, was refused with the register saying the transcribers will charge a fee for providing it. There are many pressures on public funding at present. Having considered your request, Lord Justice Horrell has concluded it would not be appropriate use of public money for that fee to be paid from public funds. Your request has therefore been refused. Okay, now let me just make something very, very clear here. Now, I totally understand that the public strings are, it's difficult right now. I understand that point of view. They tighten up the belts and all this malarkey, but this is not a reason. This is not on something like this. We should not be denying these people these transcripts. I'm sorry, but you know, public money going towards this should be there should be no excuses here. It's a necessity for these victims. It's a necessity. There's no reason why public money can't go towards this. Now, they're saying that there's pressure on public funding. Well, yes, I understand the Conservatives have squeezed your budgets. I get that. But that's no excuse for telling a victim to say, hey, you need to cough up the money yourself. That's no excuse for it, regardless of whatever situations they're in. Davis said the high costs him and other victims are facing are traumatic as victims of crime. These are the stories, our lived experiences. We deserve a right to read and come to terms with them, paying for the service that borderlines state sanctions. So you can see there, this is the letter here where they're saying here. We'll charge, yeah, you can see it there, right there in black and white, where he's been told that that in order for him to get it, he has to pay for it himself, pretty much. So your request has therefore been refused. It would not be an appropriate use of public money. Do you think it is you think it's not appropriate for someone who's a victim of homicide for public money to be used to pay for a transcript? Do you think that's an abuse? I don't think that's an abuse. They are a victim. Remember that. After asking for a judge to reconsider, Challen was told by the court that even listening to a record of proceedings would involve being present in a courtroom at the Royal Court of Justice, which can only be done under supervision. It follows that this request will require a court official to be present while you listen to the whole of the recording of a hearing, which occupied all of most of the 2 days. The court official added, Lord Justice Horrell remains sympathetic to your position, but does not believe in its appropriate use of selected staff resources on the count. He's also been told the original trial recording of 2011, which put his mother behind bars, was destroyed. Yeah, I've not informed there was a time limit. Despite the Prime Minister's claims about free transcripts, there appears to be nothing about free transcripts being provided for the families of homicide victims on the official government information page or in either of the necessary application forms. The 5-page form to request extraordinarily waivers and receive a transcript of public expenses requires applicants to set out their monthly expenses. So this is obviously your set out all your usual income, child benefits and whatnot there. Your expenses all will be there. So the government's form requesting a waiver of transcript fee asks for a full breakdown of the application's monthly expenses. David Challen added the exploitation system that bars out therapeutic means of recovery as Dark Ages practice needs to be abolished. As victims of crime, these are our stories, our lived experiences, and we deserve the right to read and come to terms with them. Paying for that service is borderline state-sanctioned abuse. It is. I'm sorry, it just is. In 2020, 36-year-old Juliana Talaridi was drugged and raped by her then boyfriend Hubert Gallick, 35. She was waived her autonomy to speak about her experience of the justice system. The trial of her rapist took nearly 2 years to get to court, as the Mirror reported. Finally, in 2022, Gallick was found guilty at Isleworth Crown Court of rape and assault by persecution and jailed for over 13 years. But Juliana was told then by the courts that a transcript of her 10-day trial would cost £7,459.20, despite reading it being recommended by a therapist. £7,000. It just felt like a mockery. It feels like they don't care about us. We, the victims, are always the afterthought. She describes her experience of the justice system as horrific. If transcripts are free in Brazil, a developing country from where I'm from, why can't we do it here? The survivor and campaigner told Byline Times. In Scotland, victims in rape and sexual assault cases now have access to transcripts from their court cases free of charge under a year-long trial. Why is it a trial? That should not... am I going crazy here? Like, is this something supposed to be normal that people have to pay for? Now, I don't know about the Scottish one, but when I was seeing that, I was like, what? In Scotland, victims in rape and sexual assault cases now have access to transcripts from their court cases free of charge. So they were charging before, is what they're saying here. This is not right, guys. I'm sorry. This is not right. Okay. Yeah, what we're talking about sexual assault cases. Victims of rape. Charlotte, whose identity is being protected as her alleged abuser was found not guilty, was discouraged by police from attending the full magistrate case last year, aside from giving evidence. After the case fell, however, she was told there were no records available from the court here. I requested a live link to give my evidence from another room in the court, and that was declined. So basically, I was told you have to come to give evidence, and then you can't see the rest of the trial or hear the rest of the trial. And when he was found not guilty, I obviously wanted to understand what happened and was said and what was said and at all. That's crazy. How can the victim not be in? Okay, I can understand if the victim doesn't want to be in the same room as the persecutor. I understand that. But why were they blocked out of all this? It's just beyond me. That's insane. For me to really understand and to be able to move on and let go of all the things that kind of happened, I really wanted to know what was said, Charlotte told Byline Times. By the way, it's not a real name, just a reminder. Notes of the barrister for the CPS, which were eventually shared with her, revealed that the judge suggested that she was an unreliable witness because I waited 8 months to report the crime. The crime being multiple years sexual, physical, mental abuse relationship. Yeah, well, it's not easy to come forward with these cases. Clearly, she's an unreliable witness. It's not easy to come forward with these things. Clearly, the judge did not take that into account. And the second thing was, she said was, you clearly spoke to other victims of domestic abuse, so you know exactly what to say. What has that comment got to do? Charlotte wanted to hold the judge to account for these apparent sexist remarks, but of course, the only way to put a complaint in is you need the transcript. You need proof that of what is said. So when I found out a magistrate's court is not actually recording, it was really upsetting. She spoke to other victims and helped develop the Open Justice campaign. It's about me talking about the most intimate and horrific periods of my life. Why can I not have the information about that? Another case reported by The Times involved Lily, a child abuse and rape survivor whose mother was quoted £6,500 for trial transcripts, eventually crowdfunding to $14,000 for a partial transcript. Other victims are reported quoted fees of up to £22,000. See, this is insane. This is an abuse. After speaking to constituents around the affected scandal, Liberal Democrat MP for Richmond Park, Sarah Olney, introduced a Commons amendment to the Victims and Prisoner Bill in November, urging the government to waive transcript fees for victims of sexual violence, a move supported by across party lines. Despite this, the amendment was not selected for a vote by the Speaker and was not included into the legislation. Instead, the government has proposed a one-year pilot to provide victims of rape and other serious sex offenders with the judge's sentencing remarks for free. We don't need a trial, we just need to put it through. There doesn't need to be a trial for this. Why does there need to be a trial for this? This is not right. Critics say the measures fall short of its exclusive non-guilty verdicts and the rest of the trial process, unlike the scheme in Scotland. An open letter backing the campaign had been co-signed by 41 others, including the CEO of Refuge, Rape Crisis UK, Women's Aid and SAMM, as well as Sherrod Booth, CBEKC, the Victims Commissioner for London, the Chair of the Justice Select Committee and the Mother and Father of the House of Commons. The letter repeatedly asks in the amendment, which would make provisions in the Victims Bill to enable victims and bereaved families to request to receive a court transcript free of charge. Yes, it should be free of charge. This is not a debate. It should not be debated, should not be in any way excuses. These should be free for these victims. The Victims and Prisoners Bill has now passed the House of Lords with an open justice amendment reintroduced by Baroness Britton, Liberal Democrat, and is set for a vote on April the 23rd. Neither Labour nor the government have indicated they will support free transcripts amendments yet on cost grounds. I'm sorry if this is a cost problem, but we're talking about victims here. So suck it up and get it through. The cost of transcripts managed by private companies remains a barrier due to the fact that notes are taken by hand and then digitalised. Why are we... I was going to say, why are we managing private companies? But I'll remember who's in charge. However, there are now extensive low-cost AI-powered transcripts tools already on the market being used by millions of people. Making them freely available will cost around £5.3 million a year based on 2022 figures compiled by the House of Commons Library. In 2017, Labour MP David Lammy said, as part of the government's £1 billion court modernisation programme, all sentencing remarks in the Crown Court should be published in an audio or written form. This will build trust in making justice more transparent and comprehensive for victims, witnesses and offenders. However, to date, Labour has not backed the amendment yet, it says. So Olney MP says, no victim or bereaved family should be forced to face thousands to access a court transcript, and it's clear that our current system is failing to address this glaring inequality. Justice should not have a price tag, and I'm so honoured to stand side by side with victims and bereaved families on this vitally important campaign. Cases like this are all sadly too common, and the Justice Secretary must hear our calls to change and accept amendments in the Victims Bill which help reduce the cost of these transcripts for victims. It's high time the government listened to victims and experts to finally make this much needed change. The Ministry of Justice spokesperson did not respond to our specific questions, but told this newspaper it is vital that we get the support and information needed to rebuild their lives and move on. This is why we've announced a new pilot scheme that will enable victims of sexual offences to request a copy of the judge's sentencing remarks free of charge, building on provisions of already placed for families and homicide victims in cases of murder and manslaughter. While judges can already decide to provide full or partial transcripts of victims, this pilot will inform our next steps as we look to continue at all other options to reduce the cost of living them. This is not right, guys. This is not right. I'm grateful for Byline Times for this story, to put this out there. I really am, because this is a massive scandal, in my opinion, because victims are being asked to pay. They're being asked to pay. I'm sorry, I don't care if it comes out of the taxpayer purse. Yeah, if it's got to come out of the taxpayer purse, come out of the taxpayer's purse. Here, we're talking about victims here being, and being denied these transcripts is important to them. It's really important. And it's easy for people on the outside to say, oh, well, why can't they pay for them themselves? Like, we're trying to tighten our budget strings and whatnot. We're talking about people, who've gone through traumatic experiences, some of them. Like, we're going through so much, physically and mentally, what they've gone through. And we're telling them to cough up money at no fault of their own. I'm sorry, that's a scandal. And this whole trial bollocks, I'm sorry, it is. We should not in any way, shape or form. There shouldn't be any kind of trial or whatnot. It should all be free. All nations. It should be free. These transcripts should be free. I don't care how it's done, but it needs to be done. Because it's not right. It is. It is injustice for these people. But what do you guys think? What do you guys make of this story? Do you think there's any justification whatsoever for this? Because I don't. If you think there's justification for people paying, victims paying, please explain in the comment section down below. Because for me, it's not right in any way, shape or form. Now, you could argue maybe it might depend on minor cases, smaller minor cases, like not like minor ones perhaps, but we're talking about sexual offences, homicide, rape victims here. We're talking about this high level. And you don't think that should be free? Explain to me in the comment section down below. Or for anything else to add. If you find this video informative, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further, financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.